solving the right problem is a critical skill set. So, quick recap from yesterday. When I last left you, we were about to go and see the plastic surgeon for my son's leg. Good news on that front. Plastic surgeon had a look. He's like, I think this is going to be okay. We need to keep an eye on it. We need to keep the wound moist so that the skin cells can come in. But there is no sign of osteomyelitis, and there is no sign that the bone has been exposed. This was helpful. Wonderful. I then got to go and hang out with my grandmother, 97 years old, still in her own house at 97. It's pretty cool, pretty awesome. And we got to hang out for an hour. My son, myself, my grandmother, really sweet little experience. We had some chocolate biscuits. We had some lemon, lime, and bitters. It was a really nice experience. Then got to go and hang out with my brother and saw my brother. Now, my brother I wanted to check in with him because a week ago, 10 days ago, one of his good friends committed suicide, which is rough. It's like, oh, how did that happen? And I wanted to see that he was okay because it is a very difficult problem. There was no warning. It was the classic no warning, not spoken of. And then suddenly this happens. He had a 4 or 5-year-old son, some relationship difficulties, but just devastating in its effects, not only on my brother. Of course, this is not good, but for that little boy, for his wife, absolutely devastating. So I wanted to check in with my brother, and I also got to go and see my dad. Now, my dad has late stage dementia, broke his hip about 18 months ago, and has been lying in the bed for 18 months. And at the time, they were like, look, your father's got late stage dementia. We're just going to do the basic operation, not do a hip replacement, just do the fractured off replacement. And he's got a 30% chance of death in the next 12 months. He then caught COVID and he's still alive, but it's a gut-wrenching experience. The dementia experience, it really is just a horrible disease. So it's interesting seeing my grandmother at 97, pretty good. I mean, the body is painful. There is no doubt about that, but the mind is sharp. And then my father dealing with severe dementia, unclear whether he even was responsive, but being able to feel his heart and put my hand on his forehead and just rest. And for whatever it meant, like most likely there will be no recollection of that. I don't know what his experience is. None of us do. But at some level, there was some sense of support. So after all of this, we drove home. It was getting pretty late. I was tired. I was wrecked when I got home. I'm like, I need to go straight to bed. Went to bed, woke up this morning, and guess where I was heading? Back to Brisbane, 2 hours up the road. But this time, not with my son, but with my wife. You're like, Tom, what is going on? Why are you driving up and down? Well, I did want to sleep in my own bed. I have an aversion to other people's beds because I have woken up with crook necks before, very severe. I've had about 3 severe head injuries, like bang on the top here, 3 times. And so I think one time my arm I woke up in the morning, neck pain, but it must have crunched the nerves, crunched the brachial plexus, and had severe neuropathic pain down my right arm. I'm right-handed. This was highly unpleasant. And if you haven't had neuropathic pain, well, I would suggest that you do everything to avoid it. It is not something that you want. What I did realize was that my patients with neuropathic pain had told me for years that Panadol and Nurofen do nothing, and that was very much my experience. Literally did nothing. For a while there, the only relief I was getting was hot baths. And so I was having like 3 hot baths per day, sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning, just to try and get some relief. And then as the heat wore off, the pain would come back, and just this writhing pain. Like, it wasn't even that bad. 5 out of 10, maybe a 6, but probably 4 to 5 out of 10. Not 10 out of 10 by any means. But the nature of this neuropathic pain was just horrific. So I'm a little bit cautious. So I come back, sleep in my bed, and then head back up to Brisbane with my wife. And the reason is that we're looking to sell an investment property. And this has been, we're like, you know what, we are, the interest rates have gone up, this thing, it's like, let's get rid of it. And it's gone up in price, and there's no stock in Brisbane, and there's a rental crisis. And we're like, okay, but our tenants are locked in for 9 months. And so as we're going through, I think we saw like 5 real estate agents today. And real estate's not really my jam. I get it. I like it because my wife loves it. My wife loves it. Em loves it. She's awesome with it. Really good. Me, I'm like, oh, it kind of stresses me out a fair bit. But what became apparent at the end of this was, as we're driving back and discussing what happened, it's like, hang on, are we just going to sell this one and buy another one? Like, what's the point of that? And we're in a conversation with our financial planning team. And what came out of it was they said, we cannot use your New Zealand property. So way back when, in 2012, I think it was 2012, my wife is on the cash flow positive real estate train. If you're not aware of what this is, it basically means you buy a house and the rent pays more than the mortgage. So you make a little bit of money. And the idea at this time was that a gentleman by the name of Steve McKnight had come out and gone around rural Victoria buying properties, and it bought 130 properties in, I don't know, like 18 months using this strategy. But at that time, you could buy a house for 135,000 and it would rent out at 150. And he did this over and over and over again. And he set up a coaching company. And my wife went and they said, guess what? This is available in New Zealand right now. So she flies over and buys 2 properties in New Zealand, right around those price points. I think one was like 125 and one was 150. And we ended up selling one to get a pool, which has been quite difficult for my wife. Like, the regrets, because it's gone up again. It's gone to 400, gone to 500,000 New Zealand dollars. She's like, you know, I should have made 200. And I'm looking going, you know what? We've got a pool, which has been epic. My kids have had a great time. I've had a great time. Like, our pool is amazing. It's brought more happiness to my family than another $200,000 would have. I see it that way. My wife maybe sees it a little differently, but I'm like, check this out. The memories, the experiences, the joy that came from selling the second one and getting a pool has been extremely valuable to me. But she's carrying some scars around this. She's like, I felt like didn't really need to sell that. Didn't really need to sell that. So she's carrying some scars. And I was like, looking back, and I'm like, damn, maybe we didn't need to sell that. Maybe we could have got the pool, but we didn't. And at that time, it was like, okay, getting the right solutions is critical, but you can't get a right solution if you don't know the right problem. So we're chatting away on the road home to our financial planning team. And they say, guess what? We can't use any of the money that comes from that New Zealand property. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, because it's in New Zealand, we can't use any of it. And I'm like, whoa, okay, well, this is a very different problem than the one I thought we were solving, which was take the profits, pay down the house. But the interesting thing is that that New Zealand property, we get rid of it, we sell it, then we might be very close to achieving our goals while not selling Annalie at all. And I'm like, man, I have just been through 5 interviews with real estate agents. And I like it. Like, real estate agents are an interesting breed. It's a tough game, you know, because for me, I don't sell properties. I don't buy properties very often. They do it all the time. But they've got to guide me through that experience as if it's the first time. And it's a funny game. It's a funny game. So I was pretty cooked after going through that. I was like, whew, I don't know what to do. But what came out of it was like, hang on, we are potentially selling the wrong property. And instead of selling the one in Brisbane, we should be selling New Zealand. And perhaps that solves our problems entirely. This whole situation came up because we had bought one in Logan, but the developer appeared to have lost his mind. And having sold the blocks to a whole bunch of people to be bought, then started redesigning the blocks, didn't tell anyone, trying to sell them for more money, got greedy, and then the whole deal fell over. And it's like, dude, what was that? What was that? That was a mess. That sucked. Pissed off a lot of people. We were one of them. But in the recovery from that, it's important not to compound the error. And so reviewing the situation, it was like, okay, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? What's the actual problem that we're solving, and are we solving it correctly? Now, this is going to come up in general practice as well. Not so much for our patients. Presumably for them, that initial consultation, that subsequent consultation, those ongoing consultations, you've got that. But it's the rest of the game that's going on, particularly in this post-COVID experience where people are burnt out. The doctors are burnt out, the nurses are burnt out, the receptionists definitely are at high risk, if not burnt out. And what can be small problems in a pre-COVID environment that got dealt with can easily blow up. So you have to be paying attention to recognize the problems in the first place, then get clear that it's actually the right problem to solve, because it may not be the surface problem at all. And you might need to consider, why are we dealing with this problem? Oh, it's actually because of this other problem over here. And you could go ahead and solve the first problem, but it will just reappear in another form because you didn't solve the right problem. Now, this all presupposes that you're paying attention enough to go, hey, I'm seeing some issues here. I'm seeing some problems. Guarantee you have issues in your general practice. Why? Because for years, we never had to be elite. We never had to be really good at running a business, running a practice. Why? Because patients just kept coming. And we may see that the demand for healthcare is so high that people will still come even if the service is substandard. But the opportunity is to recognize the problem, select the right problem to solve. So actually spending some time to look at, hey, is this the right problem? And then solving it. And it might be to do with a whole host of things that you rarely come across. But know that if you do not fix it, do not speak up, even if it's not something you can fix, but you go to the practice manager and say, hey, we've got a problem. I had this the other day. I think I may have already told you, but I need to change my bank account details. I write an email and say, hey, I need to change my bank account details. They write back and say, send us the new bank account details. Now, just fortunately, I had two people that I know that have been hacked, and this exact thing happened, and then suddenly the money's gone. I'm like, don't do this. This is a problem. Even though it's not my business, I'm just a contractor for my business, for the practice. Like, hey, this happens, it sucks. This really sucks. Let's not have this. Let's fix the problem. Got to have a signature. There are more advanced solutions to this, but at a minimum, it's like print out the form, write in the details, sign off, send it back. Now we change it. This is the right problem to solve. So first of all, I've got to know that this is a problem. And it was only through running into other people who've dealt with this hacking thing. And this will be an ongoing solution. We don't appear to have a really good way to verify identities at the moment on the online world, because once your details get out there, then people can go hack it, and suddenly you can be the victim of a hacking and have no recourse. Happened to another friend. Her accounts got hacked, and then she thought that the legal action was the scam, but that was real. And so she dismissed it. This is a scam. $1.2 million scam. Not going to buy into it, except it was real. And it went to court and she had a judgment against her. It's like, what just happened? So we have many problems. We are in a world under extreme change. So your ability to not only recognize the problem, but make sure it's the right problem to solve and do something about it is critical. If this is something that interests you, then I'll pop a link in the comments for a program that I run called Clinical Certainty. Clinical certainty. You see, the problem that we are facing is not access to medical information. And it's not even access to smaller chunks of medical education that are usable, a la how to pass the exams. What we are facing is a global situation, global not in the world, but global as in everybody that we're running into, our patients, the staff, ourselves, are under incredible strain. And you must have tools that allow you to resolve the issues that you are faced with every single day as a doctor. And if you don't do this, then the weight of what we are dealing with piles on, drops on and on subtly day after day until you come home and you're like, I just want to scream. I just need to drink. I just want to go to bed. And then your kids come up and touch you and like, don't touch me. Can't handle it anymore. These are clear signs that there is a problem and you need to have tools to resolve this. If this is something that resonates with you, go click that link. Go check out the Clinical Certainty program. This is not training that came from going through fellowship or med school or anything. This is training that I have been seeking to look for how to deal with the pressures that are coming onto every single one of us as doctors. And if you don't have tools to deal with this, then the risks are significant. So I'll pop that in the comments. You have a great day. Look forward to seeing you soon on another live. And be aware that the challenges that we face aren't going to get easier. We are under extreme strain. What tools do you have? What are you using right now? What go to? Meditation, exercise, critical, how you eat. Are you drinking? Are you taking other substances? All of this must be looked at. And it makes a difference, not just for your patients, not just for your practice, but most of all for you. All right, go check out that link. Look forward to seeing you on the next live. Catch you then.